Alrighty, how we doing? How we doing this evening? Friday night. Haven't done one of these in a while. Sorry about that. But how we all doing this evening? I needed something to talk about, so I just slapped up an AJ Fury thumbnail. Well, I recycled one, I should say. So give me 2 secs. I just want to fix a few things here because I was late going live. I know that. I know I was a bit late on the live end. So we'll just let the stream fill up. We get a few people in here. And we talk about boxing for the next, I want to say about half hour, 40 minutes. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going long tonight. I just haven't done a live in over a month. Well over a month, about 6 weeks. So I want to just get back into the swing of these. Get back into the swing of these. So give me 2 secs, peeps. Just want to make sure. Looks fine on my end. Let's see how we get going. So we get the chat fill up. How is your Friday? How was your Friday night? There we go here. There we go. There we go. I think that's good to go. Let me know if you can hear that or not, because believe me, StreamYard, when you use it regularly, it works fine. But when you don't, when you go away for a little while, it tends to be a bit on the glitchy side. Well, at least that's what I found with it. I don't know why, but it tends to be a little bit glitchy. Because everything was asking me to sign in, it was resetting things, and it's kind of all over the shop. So let me know how that sounds. I hope it sounds okay. I hope there's no flipping issues with it. Like it's echoey or something. Yo, JP. Been a while. Yeah, I know. I've been focusing more so on getting videos out than I have been anything else, to be honest with you. And just had a lot going on. So when I come home in the evenings, especially now that things are kind of opening up here, when I come home in the evening, there's not really something I'm thinking about, which is live streaming, to be honest with you, mate. Which is shit because I do enjoy them. I can let my hair down a wee bit in these live streams as opposed to the normal videos where you kind of got to keep it above board. But there you go. If AJ beats Usyk on a fair points, think that's slightly scary for Fury. I'm sure Tyson Fury knows how dangerous AJ is. I'm sure that Tyson Fury would look at Anthony Joshua and think he'll say that he doesn't view AJ as a threat. He'll say that, oh, Anthony Joshua can't do this, he can't do that, etc., etc., etc. But deep down, I'm sure that he knows AJ is a threat, and I don't think if AJ beats Usyk that he'll view AJ anything less than a threat. Would it scare him? I doubt it. I'm sure Tyson Fury knows that Anthony Joshua is a challenge. Whether he beats, look, even if AJ lost to Usyk, I'm sure he'd look at Anthony Joshua and think that's a challenge. Seriously, he might give it the big one and say, oh, he's not this, he's not that. But me personally, I'm convinced Tyson Fury deep down probably knows AJ is a tough fight. Either way. So I don't think it would scare him. AJ Usyk is a tricky fight. Look, I wouldn't be shocked if either guy loses. If there's going to be an upset, I think it's going to be AJ, and it's going to be AJ losing to Alexander Usyk. But could be wrong. Deontay Wilder has that power. He could do something in that fight with Tyson Fury. You just don't know. This is heavyweight boxing at the end of the day. You just don't know what way it could go. But I would imagine that Usyk. You see, when I look at AJ, people keep saying he needs to put it on Usyk. I don't think that's necessarily the best idea. Against Kubrat Pulev, now I thought Pulev would fight a different fight, to be fair. I thought Pulev would come out jabbing. But against Kubrat Pulev, yeah, you could put on Kubrat Pulev because Pulev is a lot slower than Usyk. He's seen better days. He really only knows long-range boxing. When he was trying to take it to AJ himself, it was kind of a bit all over the place. It wasn't really, you could tell it wasn't really fluid from him. With regards Usyk, I think Usyk will... Me personally, I think Usyk will like that if AJ comes at him because it gives him more opportunities to counter him. That's just me personally. Great game between Italy and Belgium. I said to myself, the winner of this game wins the Euros. I reckon England will... Well, Ukraine are decent, but I reckon England will get through Ukraine and could potentially be... Although Denmark are very strong. Italy, I reckon, will get to the final. They'll beat Spain. And well, this is Italy's tournament, I think. But I reckon Italy will beat Spain. I reckon the UK will beat Ukraine. Denmark will beat the Czechs. And then it's a toss up between Denmark are playing some great football at the minute. So it's a tough one for me. England, you guys went into this tournament not liking Gareth Southgate, a bit like the last tournament. You were like, "What the fuck?" And now he's doing a bit. He's doing well. People are starting to get on the bandwagon with Gareth Southgate. It's a strange one. I think that Italy have this tournament. It's mad to think that in the World Cup 3 years ago they were saying this is the worst Italy squad in the last 20 odd years, and now they're saying it's a given nearly that they're going to win the Euros. So it's crazy. Bit of work. That Belgium team, that's their last season, or this is their last tournament of the golden era, I think, anyway, of Belgium. So the fact that Belgium haven't won any silverware over the last 5-6 years is crazy, because that Belgium squad, is nearing the end of its golden period, and they have such talent in that squad, such depth of talent, such a good team, that how they've never won anything major is beyond me. It really is. And I look back to the last Euros, the Euro 2016. I mean, that really was Portugal won that, and they were the only team to win that Euros from third place. If that Euro had been Euro 2012, Portugal would never have got through the group stages, because that was the first Euros, as far as I'm aware, where they started accepting third place finishers to go through to the knockout stages. Portugal came third in their group, were not the best team in that tournament, won it. That was tailor-made for someone like Belgium to win. That was tailor-made for someone like Belgium to win, and they didn't. So I don't think they'll ever. To Belgium years ago, I remember them in, like, if you got Belgium in, say for argument's sake, you were looking at Euro 2004, Euro 2008. If you were playing Belgium back then, even in the qualifiers, like, Ireland are crap, but even then you'd look at Belgium and say, Belgium will win, or no, you'd beat Belgium because they're not good. But what they did is they brought their youth the right way. They got their youth system the right way. You see, the problem with most youth systems, whether it be in the UK or Ireland, is you have players fixated on glory. And you see, League of Ireland players, League of Ireland is like National League North in the UK. That's how poor it is. But you have players who play in League of Ireland for like £200 a week, and they think they're the next coming of Ronaldo. They're not. They're more focused on glory than they are of just improving. And I think that's the problem with. I think that's what Belgium got right with their squad. Bringing the youth system through, is that they were able to get their squad up and proper, and there you go. They're seeing the results now. I genuinely think that Italy will win the Euros. I think that it's amazing what the transformation, as I said, in the last World Cup, they were saying this is the worst Italy squad in however many years. Immobile was up front in Euro 2018, and now people are acting like, it's the best thing since sliced bread. I hope Italy do win the Euros. I know I see Dale there, big up the blue collar sports. I know he won't like me saying that, but I think Italy are going to win the Euros. I wouldn't mind. I was joking with Dale saying it's not coming home earlier, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind seeing the UK win the Euros. Personally, I don't have that much of an issue with them. I remember in 2018, during the World Cup, when you guys were in the semi-finals, oh my God, it was crazy in Ireland what was going on. I remember I was working with a girl at the time. She was born in Ireland. She was Irish, but her dad was from the UK, and he would drink in a pub in Dublin. He drank there for years, and I think it was in Artane somewhere. And they basically told him, if England win, you're going to want to get out of that pub fairly quick. And he'd been drinking in that pub. They weren't joking, by the way. They weren't joking, saying like, you want to get. Oh, they were serious. They were like, if England win against Croatia, you're going to want to get out of this pub extremely fast. And he was like, you know what? I just won't show up. Simple as. So yeah, I've been enjoying the Euros. It's been good. The match last week against Italy and Austria, that was one of the few. I don't normally bet, but I bet on that match, and I swear to God, they could have done that 90 minutes earlier. Italy against Austria. Italy will beat England. I'd say so. The Spanish game, though, was good today. Big up to Graham Taylor. Maya James about to rule the DAZN world. Thoughts, G-Man? Well, look, Eddie Hearn had to bring someone in for the casual audience, for the simps. She'll fit the bill. The Sims still just drool over her. And look, we'll see how she gets on. Personally, if you want to put a female presenter on, Jesus, who am I thinking of? Get like someone like Fino Boxing or Ali Drew. Someone who's pretty but can actually present and knows about boxing. That would work well for me. That's who I'd get. But hey, yo, imagine if I can't see that. That's one thing I can't see. Wilder winning on points and a legit decision, I can't see that. Imagine Wilder outboxing Tyson Fury. To be fair though, if he went on the back foot and moved for a bit, he might, I say might, he might give Fury a few issues. He might. I think it might just confuse Fury early on. Big up to Unrivaled. Shout out to you, man. I did see your text, by the way. I did. And I'll text you back in a wee bit, but I've got plans on tomorrow, mate. Any day next week suits. Any day next week during the week suits me perfect, but not tomorrow, mate. England win a football. AJ is a Wilder's a bum. Fury duck and Dylan White. Real boxing job done, sorted. Boxing's a sport that, you know, it can be annoying to watch sometimes. You want to see the fights get made. To be fair though, we do, when we get the good fights made, we do enjoy it. But yeah, like it's been frustrating this year, certainly. Like, I mean, I really did. At one point I was like, we're definitely getting AJ Fury. And now we have this. And then we don't. Like, I'm not as hyped for, I don't know why. I'm more hyped for Wilder Fury than I am for AJ Usyk. I don't know why. Yo, big up to Chris. Shout out to Broken Nose. Big up to him. It's been almost a month since, yeah. I do find that funny the way Eddie Hearn always says that. Like, he always implies that, yo, this fight's going to go over the line next week. And maybe next week, Eddie Hearn means like 2 months or something like that. But, well, after Fury beats the crap out of Wilder, then fight Dylan White. He is his mandatory. And if AJ does lose to Alexander Usyk, they're going to do a rematch. So why not? Why not? I like that fight. I think Tyson Fury beats Dylan White, but why not? I big up to Mad Chad every time. Big up to you, man. Big up to you, my man. Belgium squad is the same as England's golden generation with Gerrard, Becks and Lampard. Yeah, I mean, how that squad never won anything is beyond me as well. I mean, that, but to be fair, they could never play together. Like that England squad, when you look at the 2004 Euro squad, that squad on paper was amazing. They should have done better things, but they could never work cohesively together. They couldn't. They really just, that squad just could never get it right together. This squad they have now, it's all right. It's not, obviously, I would rather that squad, but it's all right. They seem to bring it. They seem to just bring it. Like, I couldn't believe it when they beat Germany. I thought for sure Germany would win that. But the thing about the England squad is they seem to just up their game that little bit of tournaments. I don't know what it is. You always think that, like, I always think that they'll always, you know, they won't even get through the group stages. And no, they seem really good to go. I'll never forget Euro 2008 when you guys didn't qualify. That was crazy. That's a rarity that happens. Nobody ever wanted to play Belgium growing up on Sensational Soccer and FIFA. Never really played football games too much, mate. Kate Abdul would have been good enough for her language and skills. Yeah, Kate Abdul was a little cracker. She would have been grand. I think Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Kate Abdul has actually done work for DAZN before, which is one of the reasons why I'm kind of surprised. That why they didn't get her in, because Kate Abdul, I'm nearly sure she's hosted for DAZN several times. I said I could be wrong about that, but Kate Abdul would have been good. I want to see Tyson boot AJ charity match. All proceeds go to Coogan's bent legs. Yeah. Poor Coogan. Tyson Boots video today was fucking hilarious. I was loving watching that video. That video was hilarious. Big up to Tyson Boot. I actually seen someone, yeah, there you go, Kid Galahad, just like Tyson Boots live streams. Someone putting Kid Galahad in the comment. Yeah, no, Tyson Boots live streams every time. Best intro on YouTube. Where's the piss bottle? Kate Abdul also dated Barks from. I've no idea who that is. Even more surprised she didn't get it for the. Oh, really? Think she lost the job there, right? Kate Abdul. Let's have a Google search of Kate Abdul and see what she's doing these days. Kate Abdul, because she was definitely she. I'm nearly sure she done work on DAZN. You'd never think she was 40 either, by the way. Jesus Christ, she currently works as UEFA Champions League host and blah 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 blah. Yeah, it said, oh, so Kate Abdul does the US coverage for DAZN. Well, this is what it says here. So maybe they're just keeping her on the US cards. Maybe, I don't know. Remember, she said, oh, oh, Jesus, man. Really? Kate Abdul works for DAZN UK. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Kate Abdul is Anna Woods an upgrade from Anorexic Woolhouse. Yeah, definitely. 100%. Anorexic is like, she was just annoying. She still is. I'm sure they'll still keep her on. But I didn't like her personally. Nothing against the girl personally, but she just was very just dizzy. She's not my type really to be presenting. So yeah, Laura Woods is good. You know, she does talk sports. So we'll see how Laura Woods gets on. Again, like I would have got, I would have got someone like Fino Boxing in there or someone like that. Although saying that, like she's probably not going to travel because she's mainly in the US. She just does her YouTube channel, so I doubt they would have got her in, to be honest with you. Can't stand Laura Wood. She's the type to give opinion, and none of them make sense. They've. Gee, does anyone remember the Junior Fa Joseph Parker card? I don't know the name of the girl they had on who was doing the presenting, but she was fucking oblivious. What was her name? But oh my, I think she was saying Deontay Wilder lost to Dylan White or something like that, or she was making howlers. I can't imagine Laura Woods is going to be any worse than that. I can't even imagine that Maya James, is that her name? Yeah, it's going to be worse than that because she just didn't have a breeze. I was like, what is this one on about? It was crazy. Where are we going? Bro, can I rant? Yeah, of course you can. So us boxing fans, settle we settle. What's big fights do we get? AJ Fury, Nicole AB, Canelo Charlo, four not so King, Spence Crawford. We not getting the big fights. Oh, stop, man. We're definitely not getting. We're definitely not getting the Spence Crawford fight anytime soon. I think that fight is dead in the water. What the fuck is going on here? All right, give me 2 secs. Does anyone have a wrench? Mark, you got a wrench. Can you time this guy out, or I guess I'll do it. There we go. There we go. Sorry about that, lads. Love the content, G-Man. Big up. The disappearing man got chosen because he's Matchroom Company man. Yeah, Tony Bellew, Jesus Christ. Look, it'd be interesting to see what happens with regards to the rest of the zone team when they start moving up. Like, I reckon they'll get Carl Froch on. Carl Froch's commentary's improved. I think it has anyway. Because to me, Carl Froch, when he first started out commentating, oh my God, I didn't like him at all. I'll just be frank, I didn't like him at all. He was just annoying. He just didn't seem to have like really anything to be going for him on those commentaries. But now lately, like when I saw him on the Billy Joe Canelo card, I thought that was all right. I didn't think he was too bad. Thought it was fine. So we'll see Carl Froch probably on there at some stage. Too much politics in boxing. They block the big fights. Yeah. One thing about PBC I really don't like is the fact that they're so unwilling to let like one fighter fight another fighter from another platform unless like legally they're obliged to do it or contractually obliged, or they just say absolute dumb stuff. They really do. Like it's absolutely crazy what goes on with PBC. But it's like that in all sorts. Like I mean, Eddie Hearn himself, when Eddie Hearn was talking about Alexander Usyk versus AJ, and they were talking about, having a rematch clause. Well, but they weren't having a rematch clause. He was saying if it goes to purse bids, they'd vacate and then they'd fight Dylan White. I would say that his preference would have been Dylan White because at the end of the day, it's probably a bigger money fight in the UK and it's in-house. So if Eddie Hearn, say in an alternate universe, because we're getting AJ Usyk next, but let's just say Eddie Hearn, let's just say Eddie Hearn and AJ decide, you know what, let's vacate the WBO title. We'll fight Alexander Usyk. We'll see how we get on. Now, or we'll fight Dylan White, I should say. If Dylan White beats AJ, there's a guaranteed rematch. They don't have to, there's a guarantee because it's voluntary. So you'll get that. And at the end of the day, even if Dylan White beats AJ twice, you'll get the undisputed fight still with Tyson Fury. And it's in-house. Like Eddie Hearn's not seeing his belts go away. He's not seeing anything like that. It's all above board. It's all legit. So he's fine in that sense. I only want Pheno box. Yeah, big up to Pheno box. I think it's Adriana is her name. Big up to her. As long as they don't get Garrett A. Davis. To be honest with you, I've never really seen Garrett A. Davis much. I think I've seen one of his interviews, so I don't really know what he's like. Then maybe I've seen Garrett A. Davis in the past, just not knowing him. But I think I've only seen like him interview one or two fighters. Didn't really mind it too much. Wasn't the be all and end all, but didn't mind it. So maybe see how he gets on. But I didn't mind Garrett A. Davis too much, to be honest with you. Mikey versus Regis Prograis, thoughts? Yes, please. I think that's a good fight. Is it going to be at 147 or is it going to be at 140? Either or, I think Regis Prograis wins that fight. I think that with Mikey Garcia, he's open about the fact that he's really in boxing just for the money. But I think that now, Mikey Garcia, I'd say probably the hunger is gone from boxing. I think what he says, he only wants the big money fights. So I don't know. I'd say Mikey maybe would just, I'm sure he'd give it his all, but I think Prograis is special. I really do. And I think that just shows the skill of Josh Taylor, that Josh Taylor was able to beat Regis Prograis, because I'd pick Regis Prograis over Jose Ramirez. Personally, I think Regis Prograis would beat Jose Ramirez. Andy Lee is the best move, in my opinion. Definitely. Andy Lee is excellent on commentary. Excellent on commentary. Excellent. What's the word I'd use? Pundit, analyst. Andy Lee is just brilliant on like. Andy Lee is such a good boxing brain. He communicates himself very well. Andy Lee is just very, very good. He really is. So that's a no-brainer for me. If you were getting the commentary team nowadays, you'd put Andy Lee on. To me, that's a no-brainer. No-brainer straight away. Already. Yeah. Yeah, because it's a funny pick. Why not? The DAZN should have got Caroline Pierce. Honestly, I've no idea who that is. No idea who that is. Shame they didn't get Malignaggi on DAZN. Him and Lee would have been. Oh yeah, could you imagine that? You'd have Paulie Malignaggi, the loud New Yorker, and you'd have Andy Lee, the calm Irish guy. That would have been. But they both know boxing. That would have been funny to see, actually. That really would have been good to see. Paulie is brilliant. He really is. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. And he can be annoying and he can say annoying things. He really can. And I'll be the first to admit that he can be just a bit overbearing. I'd say Paulie Malignaggi, to spend time with, I'd say he can be a bit of an overbearing character at times. I'd say he probably is. But he really does know boxing. He's not about the house fighter, if you know what I mean. I always remember when he was commentating on the Crawler Linares fights, and the first one specifically, and you had Carl Froch and Adam Smith who were commentating on that fight, and they were trying their best to give Anthony Crawler more credit than he was doing, because Linares won both fights soundly, And in the first fight, Linares was winning that fight handily. But Adam Smith and Carl Froch kept trying to give whatever they could to Anthony Crawler, to the point where Paulie's just said, guys, what are you watching? What are you watching? This is not what I'm seeing. And basically, they started changing their opinion after that because it was obvious what was going on. Jorge Linares was clearly winning the fight. Sky were trying their best to give Anthony Crowder what little rounds they can give him. And it just came to the point where Paulie Malignaggi was just like, I can't. He's not winning this fight. Yeah, we won't talk about that. There's no point that we won't talk about that, man. It's like what Thing asked me there. Look, mate, I don't want to. We know what happened a couple of months ago with Mark Stream. We don't need to go into that. We don't need to go into that. We know what's happened. We know what happened. We're talking boxing. We'll leave that out. The zone new team is 3 or 4 people I haven't heard of on commentary. Makes no sense. We're talking about Mike Costello. No, I've heard Mike Costello. In terms of like, I suppose like if you were to take, because Ian Dark doesn't commentate on boxing anymore. So Ian Dark for me is a good commentator. Just in my opinion, Ian Dark is probably the best commentator. If he's just purely commentating on boxing, he's the best in Britain. In my opinion, anyway. Mike Costello was not terrible. You know, he's not the most. How do I describe it? I like him. He's a good commentator. He's not. I don't want to say boring because he's not boring, but he's definitely not the most fiery character on commentating. I suppose that's kind of how I would describe him. At the end of the day, you have a choice. You have Adam Smith, you have John Rawlin, Steve Bunce. Steve Bunce can be funny, to be fair to Steve Bunce on commentary. He can be. Like, I remember there was a card in Belfast a couple of years ago, and it was just, I think it was on a Friday. And basically, cut a long story short, it was just after David Hay had fought Tony Bellew, and he lost that fight. And it was Barry Jones, I think it was John Rawlin, or it might have been Adam Steeton. It was one or the other. And long story short, during the commentary, during the show, one of them had to go, and they brought Buncey in. And all he did from the minute he went on commentary to the minute that show ended was he took digs at David Hay, and it was so funny. He was just like, I think Tyrone McKenna fought on that card. And he was just like, we see Tyrone McKenna and his legs are gone. Don't be afraid. He's not injured like a certain someone. He's just knocked out. It was any excuse to take a go at David Hay. It was funny as hell. So Buncey, look, he's not a great and I'd say Buncey is probably not the nicest guy in the world, but on commentary, he can be funny. You know, Steve Holdsworth is very good. He's very funny. They're the kind of guys I like. I kind of like guys who don't take themselves too serious and just have a laugh. Big up to Timmy. Shout out to you every time. Oh, good question. Who's your favorite active boxer, G? I have a lot of favorite boxers, mate. There's no like, there wouldn't be one specific that I would really say he's my favorite. I like, I can't really, to be honest with you, mate, I can't really say I have one favorite because there's no fighter who I'd really prioritize over like any other, if you know what I mean. I like, yeah, you see there, top 5. Okay, so my top 5 favorites would be probably Canelo at number 1. I love watching Canelo. Love watching him. I just love the combination of the punching power. I love the variety. I would say, what would I say after? See, a lot of fighters I like are past their best now. I used to love Povetkin and Kovalev, but not so today. Povetkin's retired. But in their primes, they were fun to watch. So I'd say Canelo. Juan Francisco Estrada, definitely. Although I felt he lost the Gonzalez fight, I love watching Juan Francisco Estrada. So put him in at number 2. Josh Taylor, number 3, definitely. Josh Taylor has always been... I remember the first time I ever saw Josh Taylor was against Dave Ryan. He won the Commonwealth title, and I was hooked. I was like, this guy's going places. To be fair, though, at the time, I bought into the hype around O'Hara Davis. I wasn't as kind of sharp, the kind of spotting talent as I think I am now anyway. At least I think I am. But back then, I was kind of thinking O'Hara Davis was good too. But I remember looking at Josh Taylor thinking, yes, this guy's got talent. So I love watching Josh Taylor. And Josh Taylor is one of those fighters where he's a great technical boxer. He's got great skills, but he goes for the kill. That's what I love about Josh Taylor. He goes for the jugular. Like against Jose Ramirez, he wanted to knock him out. He wasn't content to win on points. And it's a good job too, because those knockdowns saved him. That would have been an absolute catastrophe if those knockdowns hadn't happened. Could you imagine? Jose Ramirez might have won that fight. Would have been a robbery. So that's 3. Nonito Donaire. Love Nonito Donaire. I really thought his career was done after he lost to Frampton. He should never have been. And just bear this in mind, right? Nonito Donaire, even at super bantamweight, was too small for that division. He went up to featherweight and he hurt and was competitive against the prime Nicholas Walters. Imagine. And Nicholas Walters, when Donaire fought him, he was a killer. He was the Axeman back then. So it shows how good Nonito Donaire is. At this weight, at bantamweight, you have to put him there. I mean, that left hook, in my opinion, although Naoya Inoue is probably harder in terms of carrying his power at that weight, the left hook from Nonito Donaire, to me, that's the hardest punch at bantamweight, by bar none. Bar none. So I love Nonito Donaire. And I've got one more. I just have to think now. Who? Deontay Wilder, definitely. I know I criticize him, but I love watching him. You see, that's the thing. People will be like, oh, you hate Deontay Wilder. I don't hate Deontay Wilder. I think he's an idiot. I think he's a hillbilly. I think that he's just, if God was giving out brains, he was at the back of the queue. But as a fighter, I love watching him. He just says a lot of dumb you-know-what. Told everyone Josh Taylor was going to KO Howard Davis. I remember the build-up to that fight very well. I remembered it very, very well. And it seemed like there was no kind of sitting on the fences for that fight. You either thought O'Hara Davis was going to win, and to be fair, people who thought O'Hara Davis was going to win, at least the ones I saw, said that he'll win, but he'll win late and it'll be tough. Whereas the people who I saw who were picking Josh Taylor to win, they all thought it was going to be easy. And I remember looking at that, look, this is how I saw it. I'll just admit it. I remember looking at that and thinking, how can you see this being easy for Josh Taylor? I bought into the hype around O'Hara Davis. I really did. It was one of those times where, like, he's probably one of those names I would put down as a fighter who I thought would do really good and just didn't. They didn't. But I remember thinking, how is this going to be an easy fight for Josh Taylor? And after the first 2 rounds, when I watched that fight live, it was on Channel 5, I think, and I was just like, oh, Jesus, what was... They were right. This is going to be an easy win for Josh Taylor. I remember that well. It's like after 2 rounds, I was like, oh, Jesus, this is going to be an easy win for Josh Taylor. Hi, pal, great channel. AJ beats Usyk by KO. What's your opinion? I'm picking AJ to win the fight, mate. I am. I'm thinking points as opposed to KO. Don't rule it out, but I'm thinking points. I'm thinking points. Oh, shout out to Jono. Big up to you, man, every time. Big Boys Boxing in New Zealand. Shout out to, and by the way, if you've not seen Jono's channel, go and have a look at Big Boys Boxing. Covers the heavyweights, does a great job. Thank you for the 2 New Zealand dollars. Appreciate that, mate. Shout out to G-Man. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there. Can't get a better intro than that, man. Can't get that intro is perfect. And it's the way he says, it's proper. He looks in the camera as well when he says it. It's just perfect, isn't it? Where's the piss bottle? It's over there. What do you think of Felix Casci? I don't know if you were sub to me when he was going to fight Denzel Bentley, because I really, truly dismissed Felix Cash going into it, because I'd watched Felix Cash since his pro debut. And maybe it's the fact that he does everything right without doing everything spectacular. But I remember looking at Felix Cash thinking, he's all right, but he's nothing special. And I looked at Denzel Bentley. I remember when he fought Mark Heffron, and I thought he's so versatile. He can punch. There's not, like, I was literally if you'd said to me, put your house on Denzel Bentley beating Felix Cash, I would have been like, yep, there you go. Put my house on it. That's how hyped I was going in. That's one of my worst predictions ever. Really, truly, one of the worst I've ever done. And I was convinced Bentley would stop Cash because I didn't think Cash was anything special. He's obviously proven me wrong. Definitely, he is much better than I give him credit for. In terms of him now, he's definitely European level. Would I pick him over Liam Williams? That's a tricky fight. Liam Williams is very good. He's fallen short at world level. The Liam Smith fight, the first Liam Smith fight, to be fair, he was winning that, but he did appear to. I, look, it was a bad cut. Make no mistake about it. But it did appear he was getting uncomfy in that fight. I wonder if Liam Williams is an on top fighter. That's what I think. I think Liam Williams is an on top fighter. I think Felix Cash, I'll pick against them at my detriment in future. That's what I think. I'll big up the Faust. What are your thoughts on why fans are not interested in Lomachenko versus Lopez 2? I think the rematch would be better than the first fight. Personally, mate, I really, truly want to see that fight. I really, really want to see it. I think it's a. I thought Lomachenko versus Nakatani. You'll see my prediction video. I thought that Lomachenko would really have a tough time in that fight. He didn't. I saw some people say that's because Nakatani's not that good. No, he is good. Nakatani's a top 10, 135 pounder. He is. It's just Lomachenko in that fight. He showed what he can do when he's fully fit, fully focused, and really, he had a point to prove. So for me personally, I just think that it is. It's a fight I really want to see. Like, I really want to see Lomachenko versus Lopez. I don't know why fans don't. If fans don't want to see it, I don't know what your frame of thinking is, because I think it's a great fight. I'm on the fence as who I'd pick in that fight. I would probably see. Do you know what I think? The longer they leave that, the more it favors Lomachenko, in my opinion, because I'm convinced. Because Lopez, we've been hearing stories long before 2020 that he's been not having an easy time making 135 pounds. It's not going to get any easier the longer you leave it. So, in my opinion, I reckon that if Loma, he has to fight Kambosos unless he wants to vacate the IBF, which he might do. You never know. But if he fights Kambosos, struggles to make weight, and then decides, right, I'm getting X amount of money to fight Lomachenko, I'll fight him. And say it's November, December of this year, or potentially early next year, I might pick Lomachenko based upon, I don't think that Teofimo Lopez, I think Teofimo Lopez at 135 may have already grown out of that weight. Seriously, he may have already grown out of it. And don't underestimate what weight training can do to a fighter. I think people use it too much nowadays. But I definitely think Teofimo Lopez is one of those fighters who legitimately does struggle to make weight, and it will take something out of him. I mean, you did see it in the first Lomachenko fight, albeit he was able to hurt Lomachenko late. The power, the output after a certain point, and he wasn't hurt. Like, it wasn't like he was taking damage from Lomachenko at the same time. He really did start to fade. So I suspect something similar might happen if they fight again. Although saying that, if it's longer, as in like longer time in future, to me it benefits Lomachenko more. So I don't know. Put it like this: if Teofimo Lopez versus Lomachenko 2 happens this year, say like December, November, I'll pick Teofimo. But if it happens, say February, March next year, I might pick Lomachenko. In fact, I probably will pick Lomachenko. I know me and Chris Andre, I big up to Chris Andre. He is convinced Lomachenko at his best beats Teofimo Lopez. I'm not as convinced. I think Teofimo Lopez, his sheer size, can even the playing field. But saying that, if he is struggling significantly to make weight, then that could actually bring it back to Lomachenko, if you know what I mean. Because at the end of the day, when you see fighters use the weight excuse, it's because they maybe have taken a loss or have looked very lackluster at that weight in terms of performance. if you look at someone like Inoue, I use this example all the time. When he was at Superfly in 2017, he had Rumvasai, Estrada, Chocolatito, Calyafai. Who else did he have? He had Carlos Quadras. So many great fighters he could have made fights with, but he chose to move to bantamweight, which at the time didn't have the need to the air. James McDonald was probably the number one guy at bantamweight. I mean, to say that was, you kind of you scratched your head, but he just said, "I can't make weight anymore." Now, he was never looking poor. He was always looking good at the weight. So if he's saying, "I have to move up because I can't make weight," it's legit. He can't make weight because bigger fights at that weight, you've been looking devastating. Why would you move up unless you physically, I know it's only 3 pounds, but you physically can't do it. That's why I was convinced when he said that he was legit. Yo, big up to Joe every time. First live stream for a while, enjoying the true crime channel too. Respect to all. Speaking of the true crime, I have a video coming out on Sunday for that. And if you haven't, there's a link. Go check out True Crime with G-Man. I'm going back to the serial killers. I loved it. Like, I tell you now, I absolutely love that True Crime channel. I really do. Even though, like, it's only got like 100 and something subscribers. Boxing, crime, studying psychology, all things I love. So for me, it's just brilliant. I love doing it. You know, I don't care how, if it doesn't grow or whatever, I just love doing it. It's just so much fun for me. It just really is. I don't care if I don't even hit 1,000 subs on that channel, I couldn't give less of a shit. I just love talking about it. So I'm doing serial killer. You see, this week it's been a bit of a hectic week, so I haven't done. Now, the killer I'm talking about, I'll just tell you, I'm doing one on John Wayne Gacy. I'll just tell you. I know a lot about him already, but I wanted to just refresh the memory. But this week, I've had a lot on, so I haven't had a chance to kind of refresh things. That's why I didn't get one out today. I'm just going to do it the weekend. But Gacy, holy shit. I mean, the killer clown is what they call him. And there's a lot of questions I have about that. That's going to be, you see, that one right there, that's going to be an interesting one because Gacy's crimes are bizarre, to say the least. Well, they're not bizarre, but the kind of things surrounding him. You know, when I done the thing on Berkowitz, I said he was, you know, the cult thing, I didn't dismiss that. But when you look at Gacy, you wonder what's going on because a lot of the crimes he done were, put it like this, right? He was committing crimes on his own employees, right? He had a history of abuse on young men before said crimes, and he let a lot of them go. Does that not strike you as a bit odd? Yeah, that he was abusing and torturing some of these people. And he was letting them go, so they could have said he did it, but they didn't. I remember he chloroformed one guy into unconsciousness. So I'll give my 2 cents, and I'm recording it tomorrow. Probably go out tomorrow evening or Sunday morning, one or the other. But the Gacy one is very bizarre. It's amazing though when you start looking up these serial. I love it personally. I really do enjoy it. Big up the Champ Ross. I missed a few of these chats actually, by the way. Yo, big up the Champ Ross. I will get my picks. It's a pretty quiet week this weekend, mate, for predictions, to be fair. It is a quiet, it's a quiet week. Big up to the big cactus. Byron McBride, big up to you, man. What are your plans for the channel moving forward? Mate, I have no idea. To be honest with you, until 2020, my plan was to get some shows in the UK. Obviously, that didn't happen. It's gonna happen this year, you know. I ain't getting the you know what. Make no mistake about that. If anyone's thinking that I'm going traveling without it, I'll find a way. And you can still travel anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. But I ain't getting the you know what. That's one thing I'm not doing. I will find a way to get to the UK to hopefully cover some shows. I know you don't need the you know what anyway, so the God forbid. So we'll find a way over there. But that's the plan. I want to get to some shows and just cut, because I've seen they have that show in Sheffield every Friday. Now, the fights aren't great on it, but they seem to be very open to letting people in. So I wonder if I could get maybe a media credential to go to one of them someday. And if I'm in Sheffield, you never know, I might get to meet Ty FL. Jezza says, it's coming home. Is it coming home? To be honest with you, mate, I don't mind if it... I would rather see England win than pretty much every other team. Because I'm not one of these Irish guys who hates England. There are people in Ireland who just do not like England. I really don't. Because I know a lot of mates in England. You know, my missus, she's got family. Well, actually, her mom's side is from England. So that kind of says it all. But that I didn't mind them prior to that. So it doesn't bother me. I hope they do win, to be fair. Like, I'd rather see England win than any other team. At the start of the tournament, who did I have? I genuinely thought Belgium would do it at the start of the tournament. I know a lot of people said France, but I thought this is the last year of the Belgium golden year, so I thought they'd do it, but hey, Italy put a stop to that. Yeah, enjoy the true. I can't get over the growth on your channel, mate. Like, that just blew up. Like, you're hitting 100k before the end of the year. You get the plaque. Imagine that. You get the 100k plaque before the end of the year. But salute to Dell. Big up to Disturb Reality. But I do like the I like the cartel videos. I was thinking of doing a cartel vid myself, but the problem is I've never watched any of those, and I don't want to. I've no intention of doing it either. Any of those like gory videos that you've seen, and I just don't know if I could even sit through that, to be honest with you, mate. To talk about it, and to be fair, I like kind of breaking it down from a psychological point of view. You know, having a look at things, because I've been looking up. Look, I'm doing the next few on serial killers. I looked up Gacy, doing one on him, but I also looked up other people as well. If you've ever heard, there's a guy in America called Joel Guy Jr. Complete nutter psychopath, but it's just so interesting to read up on these guys and to research them and to watch like documentaries on them, because you're just like, what makes you guys tick? You know, it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. Thoughts on Fabio Wadley versus Nick Webb? Excellent fight. I'm really happy with that fight. Nick Webb is a good fighter. He's quite limited, but he can punch and he'll come to fight. This won't be like Eric Molina, who's going to maybe give it a go for a round and then look for a place to lie down. No, Nick Webb's going to come to fight. I reckon Fabio Wadley is going to win, but it's going to be very... See, I see that fight being very competitive. Very competitive. I think it's a great fight. And I'm glad they put a fight like that, because that week 2 was looking pretty crap, to be honest with you. So I'm glad they put that fight on. The Chris Watt case is fascinating. Yeah, I covered him. I covered him last week on the video on the channel. Chris Watt is typical narcissistic psychopath, mate, to be honest with you. It's as simple as that. He's someone who, from very early on, had his ego massaged by his parents. His parents gave him pretty much carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. That's basically it. I mean, considering the fact, right, the crimes he done were absolutely horrific, right? And not only has his mother forgiven him, right, but she acts as though the wife, who he horrifically murdered, by the way, as if it was her fault. Like, oh, she deserved it. What? Really? Are you that flipping out of your mind? And yeah, he's an interesting case. I really don't understand his... I know, I actually, I tell a lie, I do understand the motivation behind it, but the fact he did what he did, you know, it's just crazy. Thankfully, he's in a jail, and he's never going to see the light of day. He doesn't deserve it. But yeah, that was fun. Like, I knew a good bit about Chris Watt already going into that documentary, or going into that kind of talk I done on him. But he was a fascinating case study. He really is. He really is a slime ball. You can see even just in him, like in the way everything about him is just slimy. I recommend you do a video on Jeremy Bambury case. Very interesting. Man, keep these ideas coming, because I'll be doing cases on all these. Seriously, I've been doing cases on all these. The guys I've been looking up, obviously I'm going to do Gacy. Been looking up Dennis Rader, BTK. Oh my God, he is one of the most fascinating. I know it sounds weird, like that we're talking about, like, you know, all these serial killers, and you're kind of talking about fascinating, but believe you me, apparently, and this is something that psychologists have said, that people who are interested in true crime tend to be more empathetic people. Just throw that out there. Now, it's a belief, not proven, but hey, people who are interested in true crime tend to be more empathetic. But when I watch, we'll say like BTK, who I'll do a podcast on or I'll do a chat on, it's crazy. It's crazy to see that there are people like this who actually exist, because they're so, how do I put it? They're so normal. I guess that's the kind of way you describe it. They're just so normal. Like that Dennis Rader, BTK Strangler, he people said about him that he was the type of guy, if you went down a dark alley and he was there, you'd feel safe with him. What? And he was just, he know, you see with a lot of these guys, like John Wayne Gacy had an abusive father. He struggled with his sexuality. He had a lot of issues. With BTK, he had none of that. He had a normal, average, middle class family. It's crazy. Will you cover unsolved mysteries like Madeleine McCann? Oh yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. Madeleine McCann. There's something. Del, mate, there's so many interesting topics you could talk about. Even if you look over here in Ireland, right? There's there's an interesting. I forget the name of it, but I know the guy who did it. There was a guy who got convicted of rape in the early 2000s called Larry Murphy. Right now, he's free now, because Ireland is a joke. Like people say, UK is Ireland's a fucking joke. The justice system over here, there is no justice. But he was convicted of rape. He put someone in the back of his car. He done a lot of things, right? But the area where he did it, it was believed a serial killer was operating in that area, because there was young girls going missing. I forget the name of it. I'll actually Google search it here, because I can just Google search him. Larry Murphy. I think he's actually in the UK now, believe it or not. Or he's living there anyway. Where was it? The Wicklow Mountains. So he attempted the murders. Yes, he was convicted in 2001 of the kidnap murder of a young girl in the Wicklow Mountains. So he kidnapped her, put him in the boot of his Toyota, and he drove to, yeah, long story short, Wicklow Mountains. Now, at the time, there was females going missing in those Wicklow Mountains, and they were turning up. They were either going missing or they were turning up dead. That stopped after he was arrested, and yet they never decided to bring charges on that, which is bizarre. So I'm going to be having a little chat about that as well, because I think that that's absolutely crazy. The fact that he was able, like that, you got to put 2 plus 2 together on things like that. So he's interesting. Am I going to do the Night Stalker Ramirez? I'm going to do them all, mate. I'm going to do them all. The Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, he's interesting. He's very interesting to read. I remember watching a documentary on him years ago, many years ago now, where he, I think, was it his mother said that when she was pregnant with him, it was like the body was rejecting him then and there before he was even born. It was like her body was rejecting him, and when he was born, he was raised by his grandfather, who was a very violent man who killed his grandmother in front of him. And apparently, Richard Ramirez was happy with that side. He loved it. It's crazy. So Ramirez is one I'll definitely be talking about. Obviously, John Wayne Gacy is next. And there's so much that, like, there's so much good stuff to talk about true crime. And I have to say, one of my favorite crime channels that I watch is True Crime with Emma Kenny. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but she is a host. She's the host of this. Well, she's not the host, but she does videos on This Morning. This Morning on ITV. And she's like their psychologist. He's like their main psychologist. And she does a true crime series. This is kind of where I got the inspiration from. And oh my God, like I could binge watch those all day, because they're just, the way she researched them, just fantastic. There's a link to that channel there, by the way. Anyone interested in true crime, I recommend you give that a shot, because oh my good Lord, those videos are fantastic. Like you binge watch them all day. Big up to Penny. Actually made it to your live. Big up to Karma. Wonderful. Ah, man, we got great people on this channel. Yeah, they did. If you've ever seen, there's a YouTuber called Richard D. Hall, and he done videos a couple of years ago about them, and it's very interesting. The McCann case is very interesting because how many children in the last 20 years have gone missing? Seriously, have gone missing abroad, and you hear precious little about them. But what is it about Madeline? And as well as that, the UK were over in an instant. The authorities in the UK were over like that when that happened. Normally, if someone from the UK goes missing in a different country, they just tell you, yeah, just you're on your own, basically. So the McCann one is very interesting. I'll definitely be doing. I'm not gonna. People always tell me watch the Netflix documentary. No, I won't be watching that because you'll never get the full blown gist of it on the Netflix documentary. Someone's just giving me 20 quid. Jesus Christ. Um. Karma, big up to you every time. I appreciate that so much. Good evening, lads and lassies. I appreciate that. Hope you're having a great weekend. Well, I'm having a great one now. I got 20. I appreciate that. I'm just glad. I'll settle for the like. We got 47 in the building. If you could smash the like button, I'd appreciate that. But thank you so much for the 20 quid. Jesus. But no, the crime channel definitely for sure. We'll be doing more on that. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know why. I just love the whole kind of true crime thing. It's just I just love it. I think most people do. Most people love the whole kind of true crime kind of genre. And as I said earlier, they do say people who are interested in true crime tend to be very empathetic. Tend to be very empathetic people. And I'd well believe that, to be honest with you. I'd well believe it. Yeah, true crime is where it's at. Like, I don't know what it is. What is it about these people who are just like they're horrible, horrible people, but we're so intrigued by it? You know, I think it's because it's just so out of. It's just. I suppose you always want. They say that people fear what they don't understand, but people like me and you, Dale, I think we're fascinated by it because we look at someone like you look at the cartel videos you do, and you look at the serial killers I do, and you just think, what compelled them? Like what we obviously know they're psychopaths, but like Dennis Rader, right? The BTK strangler. He said that what he did was he killed 10 people, obviously by strangulation. And he believed that by him killing them, it meant that in the afterlife, when he dies, they'll be his basically servants. Where the hell did he get that kind of thinking from? It's bizarre to think about it. And at the end of the day, he was able to compartmentalize so brilliantly. Like he was a Boy Scout leader. He was in his church. He was the head of his church congregation. And yet he was a serial killer. It's amazing. And his crime is very interesting because his first crime was he killed a family. He killed the O'Tara family in 1974. He killed the whole family. Well, not the whole family, but he killed most of them. And 3 men came forward and said they did it. I don't know why they didn't, but he, knowing that they didn't do it, he went and he wrote a letter and he sent it to the police saying, these guys didn't do it, I did it. And he described it in detail. Her glasses were there. She was in the northwest corner of the basement. I was like, what? What the hell? Are you that vain? What are you doing? Like, why are you saying that? And that was ultimately how he got caught because he was one of those serial killers who was able to compartmentalize. I suspect he had multiple personality disorder, amongst other things. But he could compartmentalize his life to an extent where he'd be a serial killer 1 minute and then he'd be a loving dad the next. And he would go on long hiatuses between killings. Like his first killing was in 1974. His last one was in 1991. He was caught in 2005. So a long gap, a long gap. And what actually caught him was someone released a book. It was called Nightmare in Wichita because he was based in Wichita, Kansas. And they said that basically BTK is gone. He's either dead or in jail. And the fact that they were kind of saying people have forgotten about him meant that it hurt his ego. So what he did then was he wrote a letter to the police saying, "I'm still here. I'm gonna, kill again." I mean, obviously the police were like, "We got to get him now." So what he ended up doing was he ended up communicating with the police more and more. But when he was communicating with them in the past, it was in the 1970s, early 80s. This was in the mid 2000s. CCTV, forensics, although it was still not as good as it is today, it was still there. So they were able to ascertain more info on him. They found out that he drove a black Jeep Cherokee. They found out several things about him. And he said to the police, "If I send you a floppy disk, can you trace it? Be honest." I mean, you're when you think about it, it's just so silly. You're a serial killer, right? The police have been trying for the best part of 30 years to catch you, and you're expecting them to be truthful. And they said, "Yeah, yeah, that's fine. We can't track you on that." So he sends a floppy disk. Immediately, they look up the floppy disk who used it. It was Christ, it was a church. It was used by someone called Dennis. The church president is Dennis Rader. They were like 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals Dennis Rader. They went and arrested him. And it's chilling with Rader because there's footage of him doing his confession. And he speaks about killing people as he would me or you having a conversation about boxing. And and you can tell he researched serial killers thoroughly because he keeps saying to the judge, "I'm not sure if you're aware, but us serial killers, we go through a phase of," it's like, mate, what the fuck? And he just talks so candidly about it. He's just like, "Yeah, I didn't know how much pressure to use and this, that, and that murder was the most satisfying." It's like, mate, what the fuck? True crime is fascinating insight into human psychology, ideologies, things. I don't think morbid fascination is to come into it. Really enjoying the channel, however, it's just fascinating. I think I'm just enjoying it so much. Don't care if the channel never even hits 1,000. So I'm just enjoying doing it. If you're interested in psychology, how can you not be interested in true crime? It's a trip into the dark side of the mind, always fascinating. There's so many things, and like the great thing about psychology is it's open to interpretation. Like I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Carl Jung. Oh my god, his books are fantastic. It's just the psychology in them is just absolutely fantastic. It blows your mind sometimes. Now he's dead now. Now he was born in the 1800s. He died in the 1960s, I think. But the psychology is just something that you could. I personally love it. I could never get enough of it. I could just keep reading it and researching it nonstop. What if McCann accidentally did that? Made a whole story. To be honest with you, mate, I'll give my 2 cents on it in a different in the true crime channel. If you're interested, man, check out Pat Brown's channel and his book on the case. Pat's a lifelong crime profiler, and he was banned following up the accusations by the McCanns. Look, I'll just say it. I think that I reckon they didn't intend to do it, but I reckon that that's what happened. I don't think they ever intended to do it, but I suspect that's what happened to Madeline. I suspect that was what it was. Personally, I could be way off, but I reckon that's what happened. I reckon that's what happened there. But you never know. Could be 100% off, but I reckon that's just what happened there with the McCanns. It's still an interesting one though. You doing the Zodiac and Jack the Ripper? I've not really researched too much on Jack the Ripper, mate, to be honest with you. But I will probably end up having to look at Jack the Ripper. They believe he ended up in New York. They believe the person who they believe was Jack the Ripper ended up living in New York City, believe it or not. And I think he lived till he was in his 70s. The Zodiac killer, they believe, was military because they said that he's never been caught, by the way. They said that there was military boots found in the scene of a lot of his crimes. So I'd say the Zodiac killer. And believe you me, we're living in a time now where forensics has improved exponentially because it was the Golden Bridge killer, I think from San Francisco. He was never caught up until I think 2018 when they were able to pin him with forensics. So a lot of these crimes which are unsolved, sooner or later you would imagine that they will be able to pin someone with that crime. They believe the Zodiac killer, and the Zodiac killer is an interesting one because these serial killers, it's almost like a compunction. How can they ever stop? With Dennis Rader, BTK, I find him interesting because, as I said, he could compartmentalize. So he could go from being the loving dad to being the killer and have long stretches of inactivity between his crimes. But Ted Bundy, who was another kind of similar kind of psychopath, he couldn't stop killing. He escaped custody, fled from Colorado to California, which is the whole way across the state or the United States. And what did he do? Killed again. Amazing. When you think about it, it's amazing when you think about it. That like you've one guy who compartmentalized himself so well, and then you have another guy who just literally it was a compulsion. He couldn't stop. You know? And at that stage, that was in the was it in the 60s or 70s? I think it was in the 70s. If you did that, went from Colorado to Florida, you basically got away with it. You basically got away with it. You're thinking of James Kelly. That's the guy as Jack the Ripper. He moved to New York and several similar murders. Jack the Ripper is the granddaddy of true crime cases, along fascination. What was the guy's name? Oh, what was the guy's name who was in charge of the Metropolitan Police at the time? What was his name? Can't remember his name. But the head of the Metropolitan Police at the time. Oh, that's going to piss me off now. Because I've done a bit of research on him and I can't remember his name now. Wait there, because that's going to piss me off. Piss me off now. I want to know what the guy, because there was a guy who was in charge of the Metropolitan Police at the time with Jack the Ripper. And what was his name? He reckoned, I think, that Jack the Ripper was, what was his name? I want to find out what this guy is. What his name was. Head of the Metropolitan Police. What was his name? Frederick Adeline. That was it. Adeline was in charge of the Metropolitan Police at the time, and he was the kind of main guy for looking up Jack the Ripper. And not a chance. No, it wasn't John Reed. It was Freddie Aveline. That was his name. I knew it was Freddie something. I just couldn't think of it. Freddie Aveline. That was his name. And yeah, Jack the Ripper was a strange one. Do you do a video on boxing conspiracy theories? There's been a few. There's been a few. Conspiracy theories now are conspiracy theories that you can easily debunk, which are like the Glovegate debacle, which is BS. Could debunk that one fairly straightforward. I always find it annoying when you speak to casuals about that and they still think that they're like, I love Tyson Fury, but he clearly cheated based off of what? Oh, look at the glove, you know. I mean, gloves don't go like that. Have you ever worn a boxing glove? No. Have you ever boxed before? No. Do you know how boxing gloves are made? No. Then why are you saying that the glove is deformed? Why are you saying the glove is deformed? Certain people with boxing, it's an interesting one. But yeah, no, I'll consider doing that 100%. 100% I'll consider doing that. Do you think the fight with Takam will? Yeah, I think it will. Takam's durable. He'll come to fight. I reckon Joe Joyce wins that fight on points, personally. I'd say Joe Joyce will win that fight on points. Man, I had fun doing that. I had fun talking about true crime there. It really is something fun to talk about. Think you'll ever cover Robert? Look, mate, I will be covering anything with regards to true crime, whether it could be anything. You know, and I do recommend you check out Emma Kenny on true crime too, because she is very good on true. Her videos are fantastic, and Emma Kenny is fantastic in general because some of the things she's been talking about in the last year have been absolutely fantastic. Jack the Ripper was a potential guy called H.H. Holmes. Oh, was it H.H. Holmes or who was it? Was that from the US that he took serial killer? Moved back to the UK or US. There's a good few people who they reckon Jack the Ripper was. I mean, he's definitely dead now. He's sure as hell dead now, but The Jack the Ripper case is just fascinating. I'd say if it was today, you'd obviously be caught fairly quickly because obviously forensics and stuff like that. But you're talking about 1880s London. I mean, a very different place to what it is now. Very simpler time. I always look back at like the 1920s and stuff like that, like 1910s, and I just think I'd love to have lived, like, be in my 20s in those times, because I'd say it would have been just so much better. Would have been just so much better. Yo, shout out to Limo. Big up to you, man. I hope you're good, kid. Hope you're enjoying the stream. I'm pretty much getting ready to bring it to a close, mate. So I think you might have joined a bit too late, but big up to you. I hope all is well with you, my man. I hope you're enjoying what little bit of you know what we have. You know what I'm talking about. But now we've been having a good one. I hope you're all good. Is Al Heyman a real guy, or is he just made up? I've heard a few people say that. I suspect he is real. I suspect he is, but he doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't go on camera. Very few times we've seen him. We've seen videos of him, to be fair, with Floyd Mayweather, but it's a hit and a miss with Al Heyman. I'm trying to think of conspiracy theories in boxing. I watched the video. It might have been Boxing Legends who done a video on conspiracy theories in boxing. I know one of them is the does anyone ever remember the man with the coat in the Amir Khan Lamont Peterson fight? That's a good one. That's a good one, because there's never been any word of him since. What else? Other conspiracy theories have there been? There's been a few. You go listen to Bert Sugar, R.I.P., and he'll tell you some of the things he talks about. Now, he was a noted storyteller, but some of the things he talks about are fascinating. I always like Bert Sugar, to be fair. The H.H. Holmes Jack the Ripper theory has been totally debunked. Holmes is a very interesting case. I've heard of H.H. Holmes. I haven't searched them thoroughly, mate, to be honest with you. But I've definitely heard of him. Yeah, they did. Boxing Legends TV. Yeah, he was like in his prime in like 2017, 2018, but he doesn't do much nowadays, unfortunately. I like Boxing Legends TV. He was a little bit... I remember when Josh Kelly was on the up and coming. I think he bought too much into Kelly's flashiness. He did. The Lovejoy fighting himself conspiracy is a good one. It's a fairly valid conspiracy, to be fair. Just enjoy being in your 20s. Take care. I'm enjoying it. I've got another 3 and a bit years of it. No, 2.5 actually, of being in my 20s. I missed all the streams, but did you see who Alan is fighting? Yeah, I did. I saw who Dave Allen is fighting. Look, Dave Allen, why he's coming back to boxing, I don't want to say it, but I have a funny feeling in years to come, we'll still be hearing about Dave Allen, but for wrong reasons. And I'm not talking about punchy reasons either. And when I say punchy, I mean like slurred speech. I have a funny feeling we'll hear him for bad reasons. And I'm not talking about punchy. Because Dave Allen, I just can't comprehend his thinking. I don't even think he has a wife and kids. I think he's got a missus, all right, but I don't think he's got a wife and kids. He's definitely got a missus. But he's definitely not got a wife and kids yet. Not yet. Not yet, anyway. But Dave Allen, look, he is what he is, I suppose, at the end of the day. That's just him in a nutshell. That's actually, I only planned on doing a half hour. I've gone for an hour and 15. How about we do one on Sunday? I promise I will do one on Sunday. We'll get a live stream in on Sunday for whatever reason. We'll talk about something. I haven't been doing them, and I apologize for that. But we will do one, I promise, this Sunday. We're going to talk about a lot of things. For now, I'm going to leave it here. Hope you enjoyed it. If you could, smash the like button on the way out. I appreciate that. Happy Friday. All that good stuff. For now, lads and lassies, peace.